Welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm meteorologist Stephen DiMartino, and boy do we have a lot to talk about today. So let's get right to the forecast. Here's the afternoon surface map, and you can see that a warm front is attempting to move through the Northern Mid-Atlantic, specifically over southern New Jersey, and a high pressure center over Maine has basically blocked this warm front from moving any further north and west. As a result, instead of 60-degree temperatures for New York City and Philadelphia, temperatures have been locked into the 40s and 50s. You could thank the marine air mass for that. Meanwhile, parts of southern New Jersey, specifically around southeastern New Jersey, the coastal New Jersey area, Wildwood is around 60 degrees and Cape May is around 61. So you can see the difference in the air mass between this warm front and the air mass to the north of the warm front. It is rather cool and raw to the north of this warm front. As a result, well, let's take a look at the radar picture. And you can see that we have plenty of showers developing and moving through the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area. This is not the heavy rain. However, these showers will cause some minor ponding on the roadways this afternoon and evening for the rush hour. But like I said, the heavier rain's further to the west. And when we look out further to the west towards the Ohio Valley, we can see a large area of precipitation that has developed out to the west. Now, this rainfall is slowly going to move through the northern Mid-Atlantic late tonight through tomorrow afternoon, producing anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain, especially for northeastern Pennsylvania and northwestern New Jersey and parts of the Hudson Valley. Look for rainfall amounts anywhere from 2 to 3 inches because the lifting in these locations will be a little bit more enhanced because it's going to be interaction between the occluded front, the cold front, and the warm front moving north. As a result, like I said, look for flash flooding potential in those areas. Definitely, if you're driving up there, watch out for washed out roadways due to flash flooding. Throughout the rest of the region, moderate to major ponding can be expected on the roadways, so be careful, especially for the rush hours tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening. This cold front that is going to move through the northern Atlantic is going to mark a significant change to the entire pattern going forward. Say goodbye to the 60s, say goodbye to the 50s, say even goodbye to the upper 40s. We're talking about lower 40s and 30s for highs moving forward from Thursday on. And in fact, by this weekend it'll get even colder. But will there be snow? That is the big question. Let's take a look at the latest model guidance. Now, this is the latest European model guidance from the Penn State EWAL website. Now, I'm using the European model guidance more for convenience. I am not saying that the European model is right or wrong. What I am saying is that this model has been somewhat the most consistent out of all the other models, and that really isn't saying much considering all the models have been rather inconsistent with their solutions. Each runs a different outcome. However, the European has at least been in the ballpark while the others have been in the Grand Canyon. Now, what we have here is on Saturday night, we have a strong disturbance over the Midwest and it's diving towards the Mid-Atlantic coast. The model guidance, first of all the model guidance have been handling this disturbance in various different ways, suggesting that there is a lot of volatility on how this disturbance is going to be handled. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the models have no clue what to do with this disturbance right now. And as a result, it throws a huge question mark into the entire forecast going forward. What we do know is that we have a cold air mass in place. We have basically an Alberta clipper driving through the Midwest and heading towards the Mid-Atlantic, and that means there is at least a potential for snow showers and possibly some light snow on Sunday for portions of the northern Mid-Atlantic. I think for snow, for any type of accumulating snow, your best shot is going to be more down towards Cape May, New Jersey, Wildwood, south of the Philadelphia metropolitan area, if there is anything. But again, because we just don't know exactly how this disturbance is going to interact with this pattern, we don't know where, just how much snow could develop out of this system. Really, anyone that rules out this storm completely is making a big mistake, because we've seen in the past before how these clippers tend to surprise us a day or two out when 3 days out the model guidance had nothing. Meanwhile, notice the two areas I have circled in blue. That's our next storm that could potentially be a problem for next week. I circled one around the California coast and the other one around the Northern Rockies, Canadian Rockies. And now what's happening here is that these two disturbances are moving into North America and have a potential to phase depending on what happens with our first disturbance and how that interacts with the upper level low that is starting to develop around New England. Now let's look at the 850 millibar map for a second. Now I wanted to point this out just to illustrate the fact that it is cold. It is going to be a very cold weekend, in fact, for the next couple of days. Notice how this blue dash here, this blue dash represents minus 10 degrees Celsius at 850 millibars. So we're dealing with clearly a cold air mass. And you'll see in the future as we move into next week, it'll get even colder. So there is no doubt that we are going to be cold at the very least. The question is whether we'll actually have precipitation, frozen precipitation to go with that cold air. Now let's look at Monday night. Here we are on Monday night. Now, a few things to point out. One, our strong upper level low over New England is basically a dominant feature here. But the question is whether the model guidance has this handled correctly, as whether it's over Maine or is it more towards Canadian Maritimes. What concerns me here is that some ensemble guidance does push this a little bit further to the east, and as a result, it could lead to a different pattern outcome. We really just don't know, again, until we get a handle on the first disturbance and how that interacts with the 500 millibar pattern. The other thing to point out here is the European model guidance typically has a little bit of a problem with these disturbances that come out of the southwest. They tend to hold them back a little bit. And as a result, in this solution, what we have here is we have our polar jet stream disturbance diving south through the northern plains. But this disturbance over the southwest is held back, and so therefore the timing's off and they never phase and it never produce any type of significant storm over the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic, or have any potential to move further north. The disturbance over the south just gets crushed. However, because of the known error with this model, with that type of solution, we have to still keep the storm threat alive, which, by the way, the Canadian model does. After the previous run, it produced a lake cutter, which was rather ridiculous. But at any rate, the point I'm trying to make here is that there's a lot of error and there's a lot of uncertainty with the models. The only certain thing that we have going in place here for this coming weekend is that it is going to be cold, and that cold air will support snow if there is moisture thrown into that air mass. So we're going to have to keep an eye on these disturbances and see how they interact moving forward, because the fact of the matter is that until we get a handle on the first disturbance on Sunday, we really won't get a real handle on the type of pattern that is developing for the second disturbance and second storm. If this happens, that's on the European model guidance right now, basically the northern Atlantic stays cold and dry, and that's about it. But if it doesn't, well, could be a little bit more white out there than what we have right now. And again, just to show you I'm not kidding, there's our cold air mass. And it is cold throughout the northern plains all the way to the northern Atlantic, northeast, and New England. It is cold, 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 and that will support highs not in the 40s, but in the 30s come Sunday, Monday, and most likely through Wednesday of next week. Thank you for choosing NYNJPA Weather as your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm meteorologist Stephen DiMartino. Have a great evening.